Combiners are fixed resources and are used to group multiple flow items together as they travel through your model. Combiners can operate in one of three modes: pack, join, or batch, offering you the flexibility needed to effectively manage items in your model. In pack mode, the combiner packs flow items into a container. In the example shown, a model has been set up with a source that creates pallets for the first queue, and a second source that creates boxes for the second queue. Both queues travel to the combiner. Select the combiner to view its properties, and notice that it is set up with a combine mode of pack, and the components list is configured so that the combiner will pack 9 items from input port 2, in this case, boxes, onto the pallet. Reset and run the simulation. As soon as the combiner gathers 9 boxes, it begins the process time, which is set to 2 minutes, and then flows to the conveyor. It is important to understand that in pack mode, the boxes are considered to be items inside the pallet. If you stop the simulation, and then select and drag boxes off the pallet, you can see that the boxes are still individual flow items. However, if you move the pallet, the boxes move with it. In join mode, the combiner joins multiple flow items into a single item permanently. In the example shown, the same basic model is used. However, now in the combiner properties, combine mode is set to join, and the components list is set up so that 5 boxes from input port 2 will join to a pallet. Reset and run the simulation. Once 5 boxes arrive on the pallet, the combiner completes the process time and flows to the conveyor. Since it is set to join mode, however, you can see that the boxes disappear from the 3D space. This is because they are now essentially part of the pallet. In manufacturing terms, an example of this is assembling an item, where multiple unassembled parts become one assembled item. With the final option, batch mode, the combiner collects flow items and processes them as a batch before releasing them. In the example shown, a single source generates boxes that flow into the queue. The queue then has 2 ports that flow into the combiner. In properties, the combine mode is set to batch, and the components list shows that 4 boxes from input port 2, along with 1 box from input port 1, will batch together for a total of 5 boxes. Note that the quantity for port 1 is automatically set to 1, while the second and any additional ports use the target quantities specified in the component list. This means that the target quantity needs to be at least 1 less than the desired batch size. Reset and run the simulation. The combiner waits until there are 5 items and then begins the process time. Here, 7 minutes. Processing all 5 boxes at once before releasing them individually onto the conveyor. This is useful if you use batch processing and want to process multiple items together. You can also use the combiner for more complex operations. In this model, different quantities of different types of items combine onto a single pallet. A pallet enters the combiner from the first port, and then the combiner packs items arriving from the other ports onto the pallet. 4 Type 1 items from port 2, 3 Type 2 items from port 3, and 2 Type 3 items from port 4. If you run the simulation and then pause when the pallet reaches the conveyor, you see 4 Type 1 items in red, 3 green Type 2 items, and 2 blue Type 3 items. Run the simulation again, and you can see that this process continues. In the next scenario, a pick list defines the mix of items to include on a pallet based on 3 mix types. Note that this setup will work with pack, join, or batch mode. Here, mix 1 is set to receive 4 red items, 4 green items, and 4 blue items. Mix 2 is set to receive 8 red items, 4 green items, and 0 blue items. Mix 3 is set to receive 0 red items, 4 green items, and 8 blue items. The pallet will determine which mix type is used. Here, you see the mix table used to create this setup, where each row is an item type, and each column is a mix type. To use this table, in the combiner properties, with the combine mode set to pack, an on-entry trigger is created and set to update combiner component list. Click Edit to see the table is set to Mix Table. And the label is set to Mix, which assigns the pallets a mix label of 1, 2, or 3 when they exit the source. Based on this label, the combiner references the table to update the components list. Reset and run the simulation. In this example, the queues are set to automatically fill with flow items to eliminate wait times. The pallet will also change color based on the mix label. Orange for mix 1, purple for mix 2, and pink for mix 3. If you stop the simulation when the pallet reaches the conveyor, now you can zoom in to see that the pallet is orange and includes 4 reds, 4 greens, and 4 blues. Stepping forward until a new mix of items appears, here you see that mix 3 has a pink pallet with 4 green items and 8 blue. Pause again and select the combiner to see that the components list values update based on the mix label. Here, mix 3, with 4 items from port 3 and 8 items from port 4. Watch as the next mix enters the combiner and the components list updates again. A mix table is convenient because you can easily add more columns to add different product mixes. You just need to remember that each input port past the first must have a row in the components list with a specified target quantity. Now you can use a combiner in your model to pack, join, or batch flow items.